Hi class, it's Dr. Janachek here. Welcome to week 4. After you have completed this week, you will officially be halfway through the term. So congratulations, and just a note of encouragement to continue working hard and getting those assignments done, and it will definitely pay off. And putting in the work now instead of sort of giving these weekly assignments short shrift will make for a much smoother rest of the semester, as these assignments are all scaffolding and building toward that final research project. So for week 4, you need to read section 7 in your textbook in conversation, as well as section 4.3 on creating an annotated bibliography. Now that reading on an annotated bibliography will help give you some more context for the assignment that you started last week, the authoritative sources assignment, where you were doing 3 annotations for those 3 sources that you've started with. And now this week you are going to be asked to complete that annotated bibliography and find 5 more credible sources and provide 2-paragraph annotations for each one of those sources, followed by a full citation for each one. So by the end of this week, on Tuesday, you should be submitting an annotated bibliography with 8 sources, and those 8 sources should have annotations. So as you'll see in your reading, and as you noted from last week, an annotation is comprised of a summary paragraph where you are just summarizing the content of the source, the argument that it's giving, the main points that it touches on, any of that just summary review information. And it is important for sources that have page numbers for you to include in-text citations at the end of those sentences, so that you have the references for the page numbers on which those claims are found. So, if one main point is covered in pages 33 through 37, for instance, you should give an in-text citation with those page numbers, or if you're using Chicago, a footnote with those page number references. So for Tuesday, you have to complete that annotated bibliography with 8 sources total. This week, you're also learning a little bit about logical fallacies. So the discussion board post relates to identifying logical fallacies, which is really fun. It's really fun in conversation then when you can learn to spot logical fallacies and say, hey, there's a misstep in your logic. There's a faulty bridge in your reasoning, and I can point this out. It can be a fun exercise, or at least if you're not going to point it out to people, to be able to mentally note, sort of flaws in logic. It's a fun mental exercise. So, and important for dissecting, the credibility and reasonability of arguments. If somebody's trying to make a logical argument and the reasoning that they're using is insufficient, or they're sort of trying to manipulate you by doing a straw man, where they're creating this other other topic to attack instead of the main issue. It's important to note when those tactics are going on, so you can say, okay, I'm being led astray in these ways. I need to step back and sort of examine the larger argument here and figure out what's really going on. So in your reading on evaluating sources, you'll learn about some of those logical fallacies. And I am uploading in this announcement a handout as well on logical fallacies that will help give you some more context for those. And you do have 2 response posts due for that discussion board forum. So by Saturday, you have your initial post, and then by Tuesday, you have those 2 response posts, okay? And then this week, you're also beginning to think about conducting an interview, which will be due, the actual write-up on the interview, I believe, is due next week. So it's something that will need to occur fairly quickly. So let's see. Yeah, the written up interview is due next week. So make sure that when you're scheduling your interview time with somebody, that you are able to complete that interview by the end of next week. So for the interview preparation assignment, you are just crafting 10 open-ended interview questions that you are going to use for that interview. And these should not be yes or no questions, and they should be questions that relate to your project topic, right? Because you're hoping to incorporate some of this really useful, first-person information into your Rogerian argument paper. So you'll want to pick somebody to interview who is credible, a credible source on the topic that you're dealing with. So if you are writing about church plants, for instance, find somebody who has worked with a church plant before. Interview them, ask them questions about what the process was like, how they advertised it, what strategies were effective for advertising and ineffective for advertising. Or, if you're working with, social work, find a social worker, a professor in social work, and ask them questions related to, your specific topic. Make this interview work for you and your paper specifically. Ask very specific questions to your research, topic, so that you can bring those viewpoints in when you're writing your research argument section. So in your assignment that's due Saturday, you need to mention who you're interviewing, and you need to mention their credibility. Why they are a credible source on this topic, what their credentials are, and then let's see, what else do you need? When the appointment is, so you can do this via email, it can be via video call, Skype, Google Hangout, FaceTime, or it could be a phone call, or it could be in person. You need to mention the medium in which it's occurring, and then have those 10 open-ended interview questions. Okay, so that's due Saturday at 11:59 p.m. So those are the to-dos of this week. I did want to mention, in looking at many of your outlines this week, which are looking very good, I think some of you might have felt the need to mold your topic into a pro-con structure, just because that was the example that was given. And that works for sides, an issue that has like two defined sides, like there's value in this side or there's not value in that side, sort of thing. But many of you are writing about topics that, there's not really a clear like pro and anti position. There's more just like different perspectives on how to best address, that topic, or the best response for that topic. So, for instance, if you're looking into, let's say you're doing a paper on how to best achieve balance, like a work-life balance as a pastor. Nobody's going to say like, no, nobody should care about their family and ministry. There's not going to be a clear like anti-position, like anti-work-life balance. And so you're going to need to just, present like the different perspectives on how to best achieve that work-life balance. So if you can sort of group those ideas into larger like categories of beliefs. So maybe some people believe, in putting like a certain, like establishing certain protected times for family time that ministry can't interrupt no matter what. Other people might say that's not effective because, something might come up, and et cetera. And you're able to sort of not critique, but mention maybe the shortcomings of that viewpoint. Like when you're bringing them up, you can say like a possible limitation of this might be. You want to use very value neutral language. Remember, Rogerian argument is not, a thesis-driven persuasive essay in the sense that, you have your argument up front and then you're just defending throughout the rest of the essay. No, the purpose is to listen in on a conversation, present that conversation neutrally and fairly, and then try to find common ground between those different perspectives and work from that common ground to propose, your what you think the best solution is based on that common ground and based on what other people have already suggested. So if you need more help with thinking about how that structure relates to your topic, I encourage you to schedule a meeting with me. I'm happy to talk about the particulars of your topic with you. And yep, that's all I have for you this week. So happy interview prepping and happy examining logical fallacies, which is one of my favorite things to do. And if you have questions, be in touch. Thanks, guys.